Right, welcome back. It's exactly 10 p.m. on the dot. The second hour of news here on KTN News, and we have Akelo Misori Kupet, Secretary General, on the roundtable tonight to discuss a lot of issues pertaining the junior secondary school teachers. We have a lot of questions. It's been 1 year, his review of the 1 year, and more importantly, the complaints that have been raised. In fact, the concerns about renewing the contract of intern teachers and employing them as permanent and pensionable. We'll be speaking to him. And of course, we'll be opening the phone lines. They'll be scrolling down on your screen. We'll get a few of you to talk to you already. I have a lot of questions from you teachers. I don't know who gave my number, but I have a lot of them. I cannot read all of them, but we'll give you an opportunity to ask the question to Akelo Misori and also air your concerns. But before I bring him on, a section of junior secondary school teachers are lamenting that they have been sidelined in their ongoing training for CBC. Now, the teachers claim the CBC curriculum will not succeed unless they are involved in the creation of necessary structures. Speaking right here in the capital, the teachers asked the government through the Ministry of Education to improve their livelihoods as well as the structures in what is now known as comprehensive schools.
We got a letter from Semester telling us to attend training by 11th. By 11th we were here is when we got the information that the training was no longer coming forth and we were forced to go back. Today we've come back and the information they're giving us is so discriminative. Above all, schools are not well represented. There are some schools which do not have any representation in the training. No teacher who is teaching science who is in the room.
CBC is supposed to be integrated with ICT. We don't have internet. We don't have the resources for it. We don't have computers. We don't have laboratories. What are they going to do about that? Think about that child that we are training in that class.
Are we going still to teach these students the sciences, the maths, and yet we are not equipped? What kind of generation are we going to produce? What kind of students, we being the pioneers of JSS, are going to produce?
Right, training is just one of them. The teachers have a lot of concerns. I have a million of them already on my phone. But let me bring in Akelo Misori, my neighbor from the village. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much
so
for
many questions.
Inviting you.
If I had an opportunity to ask these questions, we will not finish today. But I want to look back 1 year since the junior school began, your analysis and some of the pertinent questions during that analysis that you'll give us, the decision to domicile them in primary schools. And of course, the other question is, how do pupils feel about it, or students in junior school feel about it 1 year?
Thank you so much for this evening, and I think it is important for us to put in perspective that we saw this one coming, and we warned, but nobody listened because it was a political process, and the voice of opinion poll took advantage of the proceedings, and the junior secondary, which is now domiciled in primary school, is now called its comprehensive school, was not properly implemented. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are three components in education which are basic: the instructor, the curriculum, and the learner.
Okay.
The instructor is not adequately posted to implement the junior secondary curriculum.
That is the teachers.
That is the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the teachers who are posted to junior secondary school were those who are newly employed, and majority of them are intern teachers. You cannot implement a curriculum which is a critical transitional, which is at critical transitional stage with those people who have just come from out of class or from school to come and teach. We needed a mix of those who have experience and those new ones. And at the same time, the manner in which they were posted was also very ridiculous and has made us now to have such complaints that the teachers are talking about. You realize that there were 14 learning areas. And these 14 learning areas, the majority of the schools received at least a teacher.
Yeah.
But some of them with many streams received maybe 2 or 3. But one thing which was very unfortunate is that they posted one category of, in some instances, one category of subject cluster, like humanities. You find somebody taken there to teach history and Kiswahili, geography and CRE, history and CRE, and they are put in one school. None of these teachers could delve into the other key areas like integrated science, mathematics, and languages. In some instances, language teachers were posted in one school, and that is the most ridiculous. Because how can you expect somebody with literature and English to teach mathematics? In fact, they have been telling us when we go out for our General Assembly meeting in the counties that they have finished the teaching of maths curriculum. That is an history geography teacher telling you. That one is telling you that they are only present in the school, busy not implementing the actual things which are there. From what these teachers are talking about, they have been invited for training. These trainings were not adequately coordinated. You realize that, like today, we got that Nairobi region was training those who are specifically employed in August. Not everybody.
August 2023.
2023.
Okay.
But the information that was taken was given to head teachers in primary, in those schools, to tell their teachers to report for training. So you can see how there is a serious disconnect between how the ministry communicates and how the teachers get the information.
Okay.
So you realize that how do you engage such a group of people when you yourself are not properly engaged?
Akela, we are told that teachers are trained to teach, not necessarily on a subject. That was one of the biggest arguments when they were posting these teachers. So when you say teachers who teach the same subject were posted to the same school, it sounds ridiculous, but what happens to the notion that teachers are actually trained to teach, not on the subject?
That one was a wrong assumption, because majority of the teachers who were posted to junior school were basically those who are trained to teach basically to subject areas. Like, for example, if you train from Kenyatta University, you have been trained in history and religion. You cannot be competent enough to hold a key area like English or mathematics. And therefore, you know, these are people who have taken 4 years in university. Some of them have also taken years doing just tea picking because there were no jobs. And then you have now brought them. In fact, they're supposed to even be retrained. But now you are telling them that they are going to teach like what the primary schools are trained to do.
Okay.
In our primary schools, all teachers are trained to teach all the learning areas which are in primary school.
Okay.
But in high school, you are trained to teach only 2 subjects.
So you're trained to teach the subjects.
Yes, but now to remove the misconception,
Yes.
a curriculum is different from teaching a subject. Like, for example, no curriculum can be implemented just by teachers who have been trained to implement it. But teachers who are there can be transformed to implement a new curriculum through capacity building, so that they accept and they internalize the new concepts which are there. If there are new strategies which are supposed to be used for the delivery of the curriculum, then they will be competent enough to handle this.
Okay. The government has been telling Kenyans that they have employed the highest number of teachers since independence, more than 30,000. In fact, they are playing in the region of 50. Who are these teachers? Are these the intern teachers, or are these employed permanent and pensionable teachers?
No, I think that is also the area where we need to separate what politics can do and what is really on the ground. To be exact, when the government employed 31 teachers.
That 1,000.
That 1,000 teachers. Basically, 9,000 were on permanent and pensionable terms.
9,000 out of it, okay.
Yes, but 21 were intern teachers.
Okay.
Who were given a contract for one, non-renewable contract for 1 year. So that one is not an employment. They engaged these interns to be backup, also to learn on the job on what they're supposed to be done in school. So that one is the truth of the matter. So the employment of many teachers surely is a misinformation. It is an overstatement to say that 58,000 teachers were employed. In fact, only 18,000 teachers were employed over the period. The rest are interns. Out of the 58,000 teachers that we're talking about, only 18 are permanent and pensionable.
18,000. And that is what you would call employment.
Yeah, that one is not actually in employment. In fact, it is a bad labor practice to have professionals to go for internship for a whole year without confirming them as permanent and pensionable or on giving them a definite contract.
Okay.
That is, even in the private sector, it does not happen. You can only be there for 6 months and then you are given exit clause or you are engaged permanently.
Okay.
But what the government is doing is basically to solve a problem, which of course is good. But another thing is that the teachers who are engaged were also engaged on inferior terms than even other public servants.
I want to talk about the inferior terms.
Because they were given 20,000, while others are given 25,000.
Is it 20 or 17,000?
17,000.
Everyone who's speaking to me says 17,000.
You know what they get is what they call the net. But what they are given, which
as a gross
is 20,000,
okay, which
is also subject to taxation. So that is why they are saying they are getting 17,000.
17,000 1 year. Then you're told the other day, I think it's the deputy president who said that the intern teachers will be given priority come January 2024 during employment. That is not the contention is most of these teachers here are saying unless the terms are reviewed, they don't even want to be employed on permanent basis. That is one of the contentions. Secondly, how did unions such as yours let these teachers work for 1 year without terms changing, and now you have to renegotiate with the government on the basis of their employment, PNP or otherwise?
The field of work is very precarious currently because the government is well aware that there are so many jobless teachers outside there, and therefore they can easily misuse that circumstance to just do what they want. But we did not let go. The promise that the government gave us was that after 1 year serving as an intern, these intern teachers were going to be absorbed on permanent basis.
When was that promise recorded?
That promise is, when political statements are made, you cannot, and it is made by somebody whom you don't think can change his mind, or then you cannot say that I must bring the clip.
You must document it.
Yeah,
but a contract should be written.
But given time, I will give you the papers which covered the stories,
okay,
and the minutes which we covered. In fact, on the issue of when we visited the president on 30th May, all unions visited the president, the unions which deal with matters teachers. We visited the president on 30th May. We had the longest time of engagement with the president on the issue of JSS teachers. He told us, let these people come and these people will be absorbed by the economy after 1 year. That one is a gentleman agreement. You don't need to document it. But I am saying this with a lot of exactness that is what happened.
Okay.
So when they are now not engaged, it is not the union's failure, but we are looking at the critical component of a teacher in the life of education. That if teachers can be mishandled like this, And if education, which is so key to the economy, can be mishandled by not considering the human resource, which is the basic in this, then we don't know what we are looking for. Ken, let me tell you that with me, I learned in a class for 4 years, but not a classroom. Putting up classrooms is very secondary in learning. Very secondary. The person who must, the one component which must be there is the instructor. You can have many books supplied to schools and many laboratories. If you don't have the person who can interact, make these things to facilitate learning, then you are not getting it right. So that is where we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me take you back to these teachers. So after the 1 year lapses, what are you going to tell these teachers? What are you telling them? How are you pushing to ensure that they are employed on permanent?
You know, these teachers are Kenyans in the first instance, and we are also paying taxes which have really swollen. Then these taxes are supposed to engage the teachers. Take note that we want to be, one of the major objectives of the competency-based curriculum is to ensure that we are also in the league of those nations which have risen from the ashes to become tigers. It is based on looking at your own resource, but this resource must be nurtured. The failure to nurture them is compounded when you are dealing with demotivated teachers and you are dealing with casualization of teaching. You cannot engage teachers as casuals. This is not construction site. You are dealing with human beings who need to be formed accurately. And if they are not correctly formed, then you don't have a future.
Okay.
That future is really distorted.
Having said that, I am just concerned now about the quality of education that has been given or imparted to these students in the last 1 year. Now that there are questionable ways that were used to impart knowledge on these students, if you say teachers that were not competent in one area were made to teach the other area, how then would you say that there was quality education in the last 1 year, honestly?
With me, I'm not saying, but everybody has observed. And this one is already being told by the same teachers who are in these schools. It is rare for teachers to own that they are not competent. But these ones have come out very clearly and telling us that they are not competent enough to delve into all the learning areas which are designed in the grade 7 curriculum. Another thing is when the numbers of those teachers is not commensurate with what is there and they are demotivated, then the quality is compromised. We are talking about 14 learning areas, which are now being whittled to about 9. But even if they were brought to 7, and you are not looking at the proper coordination of how the manpower in that area works, then you don't have the good results that you expect. So that is why it is important to note at this early stage that the better for the leadership of this country, the Ministry of Education, Teacher Service Commission, to sit together with all the stakeholders who are able and are ready to give their input on this issue. Because if we don't fix it, and in fact, Mr. Machogu must fix this because this is on his docket, we will have lost a generation. We shall have lost a generation. Remember, Ken, next year we will be having grade 8. With this confusion.
What happens?
Yeah, with this confusion. And you know, the government is saying that they don't have money. And therefore, employment of even new interns without knowing the fate of the current ones is going to be a real cause of concern.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, these ones are saying they don't want a renewal, they want P&P.
They want P&P.
And in fact, somebody will take this matter to court. If this matter is taken to court, how will the government explain? I am going to be persuaded that I think this is enough reason for us to be on the streets, which we had abandoned for the sake of giving dialogue a chance. But this one, it appears because these teachers feel that we have failed them.
Exactly, because I'll tell you this for certain. I have a lot of comments from teachers. I have a lot of sentiments here that are castigating even the union and feeling the union is a letdown to the teachers. Do you consider intern teachers part of the union?
Can anybody who is in employment has the right to form, join, and participate in the activities of the union? So we consider them to be part of the union.
Do they subscribe to the union?
These intern teachers do not subscribe.
They don't subscribe.
They don't subscribe.
So they don't fall under you.
Because their status is not definite.
Okay.
It is not the definite that they will be there in the following year. So that's why we are also not putting pressure that they join the union.
Okay.
But of course, one thing which unions are doing is to contribute to the policy framework.
Okay.
This policy framework is not only touching on teachers. It is touching on you. It is touching on Parliament and everybody who is a Kenyan to look at it, and there should be a national discourse on this matter.
I want to bring one teacher who is joining us on Zoom to paint the picture of exactly what's happening. But I want to hear from a teacher called Wamboi. He says, tell Akelo Misori that they should visit the president and remind him of that promise that was made in May. Otherwise, we are going to produce, in her words, cabbages in form of learners in the society. So that's what she says. But there are lots of such comments. Let me bring now one of the teachers who is joining us on Zoom. And a very good evening to you. Tell us your concerns, and if you have a question to Akelo, you can also ask.
Okay, my name is Emmanuel Kipruto. I am calling from Trans Nzoia. I'm a teacher of junior secondary school at a school called Baraton Junior Secondary School. As one of the representative of the teachers, we have one thing to ask the government, that they gave us a contract that ends at January 31st. And one thing that we have resolved is that they either confirm us or we are not going back to class. Otherwise, they will have to send someone else to come and teach those teachers, because one, we are demoralized because of the pay that we get. It's way beyond the living standards as per now. We have to go a little mile to even feed our families. In school, we have a lot of contributions. We have our families back at home who depend on us. Some of us have stayed waiting for this job for more than 7 years, ever since we graduated. And therefore, we are saying, if in January they are not going to confirm us, then we are not going back to those classes. We better stay and work outside. Even right now, you see, I'm working as a Uber driver in Nairobi, and my home is in Kitale. Why? Because I need a lot of money to sustain my life. I was even much better when I was teaching in BOM, and that is the plight of every other teacher who was once in high school. And therefore, very quick one, I want to applaud Missouri for what is really addressing right there. He is doing a good work because he has really articulated everything that we are going through as JSS teachers. Therefore, the only thing that I will ask him is that because he is in the leadership position, and I know he's capable to reach the top executive leadership of this country, let him have a chit-chat with our leaders before we open schools. Otherwise, those classes are going to be disrupted way from Nairobi all the way to the last, or rather the first county 001 in Mombasa. Otherwise, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. And Akelo, that threat is real, because you said it yourself that you might be forced to go back to the street. So the ultimatum is January. We have days to January. Today is the 13th. And they're saying that they'll not go back to class.
You know, the threat is real, and the ground is ripe for such a revolt, because if you realize that nobody is talking to you, there is no assurance that you will get pay. We were visited by a similar group who work in Nairobi. look at what a JSS teacher is going through, that the take home is 17,000. Maybe that money would have been better for somebody who is teaching outside Nairobi. This teacher cannot get transport to school, cannot even pay rent to school. So they better go away and find other means of survival. I did indicate here that, which was also confirmed, that some of them have been out for nearly 7 years without employment. And when you get employed as an intern, some of them already have 2 children or 3 children.
Yes.
So how do they feed their children? How do they take their children to school? They are also Kenyans, and they are seeing how other people live, because in the same neighborhood where there is a secondary school or primary school, those teachers who are permanent and pensionable and managing even lesser lessons are earning better. So that their concerns are genuine.
Okay.
And somebody must come out to rescue the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have been sent by a teacher part of the contract, and it's a little bit, the fonts are down, but I'll try and read. The internship will be a one-off, non-renewable program for a duration of 11 months with effect from the 1st of February 2023 to the 31st of December 2023. You should report to the head of the institution to be assigned the duties. But the gist of this is that top part. The contract shall be non-renewable for a period of 11 months. That is sample letter, most of them 1 year. So where did these 2 years come from that we hear around?
I think I'm also in the same dilemma that there is now talk that they want to renew the contract for another year. That one is going to be against the employment laws of this country. You cannot engage somebody on a contract of such a nature for 2 years, and that one is a bad labor practice. A bad labor practice that even the ILO, Kenya may be reported will be named in the ILO for breaching the international convention, where everybody has got the right, and in fact it is in our constitution. We have got a right to fair wage and a right to good employment practice. Yes.
As we wait for the phone lines to get, if we can get a few more teachers who are speaking, not writing, there's a comment here from one on Sarigo or Sayego from Isiolo. He says that the JSS should be moved to the high schools and not primary, because there's sort of inferiority complex. They do not know what it means to be in the high school environment. What is your take? What is your stand after 1 year of this being domiciled in primary? You said initially it was a wrong decision. What's your take? Can it still work, or there is need to move this?
In fact, my major concern is not generally to castigate even the domiciling. The domiciling was arrived at by acclamation, and Kenyans accepted. While we stood firm and said this one was not the correct decision, because the domiciling, what it has now brought is that grade 7 were going to school in trousers, and class 8 were going to school in shorts. This is the irony of it.
Because grade 7 now looked superior to grade 8. Yes.
And similarly, the teachers in junior secondary did not want to take direction from the head teacher of primary school, because according to them, they feel those ones are primary school teachers, and with them, they are secondary school teachers. So that is what has brought what we call inferiority complex. In fact, when it came to sports, the junior secondary were not taking part in sports. And yet, this is a formative period for a senior school arrangement where those people with the talent should go to sports, should have nurtured their talent as early as this. So you could see how they really suffered. And when they were conscripted to accompany these primary school activities, the allowances they got are not commensurate with the allowances the high school teachers get when they go out with the learners. So these are the things which they are also comparing notes.
Okay.
So in a good labor practice is that when somebody is doing work of same value then the pay should be the same.
Okay.
But these ones accepted that they were interns. The only good thing which the government could have done was to chew the bullet, employ them on P&P.
Okay. Yeah. On P&P and employment, a teacher here says a 2017 teacher is an intern and barred from P&P, yet 2022 fresh graduates are given P&P letters by the members of parliament. This has been a big issue. In fact, KTN has reported on this call that a lot of these teachers are complaining that the MPs have taken advantage of this to dish out letters to teachers. So they are hoarding. I remember there's an education official who said, keep politicians away from employment of teachers. So this is twofold. So one, how comes teachers who've been graduates and out for a long time are still interns on P&P, yet fresh graduates of last year get the letters? How do you reconcile this?
Ken, how do I comment on this? You know how corrupt practices are.
So this is basically corruption.
It is just a corrupt practice.
Okay.
And therefore, I take exception to taking such comments, which to have aspersions on the people who are leading this country, that you can reduce yourself not to give the independent commission to do its work, but now to put pressure that they must give you forms to employ teachers. So this is one area which I think it should be addressed by the leadership of this country.
I want to read for you sort of a letter addressed to you through me here. The only string that was holding the contracted teachers to persevere and toil hard for its implementation was a hope of confirmation. This made the young moguls to really tolerate the hard-working conditions and environment, and of course deliver jovially CBC. Now that the string seems to have been severed or torn, it cannot hold on. We can really expect a tough time ahead for the junior secondary school classes. It will be noisy, messy, and chaotic in our primary schools.
I think the writing is on the wall.
It's the same thing.
The writing is on the wall.
Then the question is, Akelo, what are you doing to forestall this? Are you going back to meet the president? I mean, it's just months away. Are you going to meet the president?
Why must we waste our time to meet the president when the Ministry of Education is there? In fact, we have engaged, we have written to the president himself on this matter. And therefore, if he feels that we should call us, then we can call us. We cannot storm the State House to meet the president on such a sensitive matter and very important matter. But the Ministry of Education has the responsibility to give the assurance to the teachers and to Kenyans. And the parliament must also stamp its feet on this matter. Because if they don't fund education, you know, currently what we have in this year's delegates conference is we are saying go public and fund education. One of the things which are making these decisions in education to become unbearable is that funding to education has become something which is reducing us to just quarrelsome.
And beggars.
Beggars.
Okay. Yeah. I have two callers online. I'll begin with Wanjohi, who is calling us from Trans Nzoia for their comments, and Mohammed from Garissa. Let's begin with Wanjohi. Go ahead. Wanjohi, the floor is yours.
Yeah. We look at this issue of junior secondary school teachers, and you'll feel that we had a contract that was 12 months and it was one-off, non-renewable.
Go ahead,
the government is not going. The government is not taking its side because it was supposed to be a one-off 12 months contract and should have been turned into a permanent and pensionable come 31st December. Now here is where the problem is. It is going to be messy, noisy because teachers are frustrated. You cannot train for 4 years, you are an intern, you're given these, then you're told you don't apply for these replacements because they were there, because come December we will be confirming you, January 2024 you'll be permanent. So those replacements were done below the waters. So comes here and you're told now renew for 13 more months. It is 13 months from 1st January 2024 to 31st January 2025. We are not boarding on that, and I guess it will not be learning as usual. It will be 1 + 1 = 11 and not 2. The government should just come out clear. These primary schools do not have the resources. We don't have the laboratories. We don't have enough manpower. Take these kids to these senior secondary schools. Employ these teachers. I have a case where my friend is teaching mathematics and is trained to teach English and literature.
Okay.
He's been here for 4 years training for English and literature. You're taking him to do SADs and integrations. You're even torturing the teacher.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Anjohi, for your comment. We'll be responding to that. I think he's still in line. Let's hear from Mohammed in Garissa. Mohammed, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, Mohammed.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. Go ahead.
I'm Mohammed Osman calling from Garissa. And I want to ask Mr. Misori that when CBC was introduced, there was a lot of resistance even from NAT.
Mohammed, just speak up, stop listening to your TV. In fact, turn it down for us to communicate better.
There was a lot of resistance from NAT, and there was a lot of threats. But what I'm saying, CBC was implemented. And now, the JSS teachers are threatening that they are going to down their tools. It is not possible. Akelo, let me ask you. Before these JSS intern teachers were employed, we have over 300,000 teachers who are jobless. And the Kenya Kwanza government employed 56,000 teachers. And this one, it's not the first time. Even before, we had interns who were in primary school, others served for 1 year, others served for 2 years, and they were employed. But now, even this group is going to be employed. That's what the Teacher Service Commission is saying. And yesterday, His Excellency the President said that he's going to employ another 56,000 teachers. That is close to 120,000 teachers in 2 years. Now, what you are saying is that the story to not incite the intern teachers.
Well, do you have a specific question, Mohammed? Because yes, there are a lot of people online and we can't take forever.
Yes, what I'm saying is, an intern teacher can implement the design very, very comfortably, because the design of JSS grade 7 is very simple.
All right, Mohammed, thank you. We'll be taking a few more. I think there's most of those questions that are asking, you have already addressed them. But if you have a specific answer to, especially Mohammed, I want to paint a picture from a teacher here. So we are 3 junior school teachers. My 2 colleagues are Swahili theory, and I teach Swahili history. We have 4 streams, 2 in grade 7, 2 in grade 8. In JSS, we have 45 lessons per week. In short, per teacher, 45 times 4 is 180 lessons. 180 lessons divided by the 3 teachers is 60 lessons a week. Next year, the teachers will have 60 lessons per week. Is it possible, is the question he's asking? I know you're on their side, but they're painting this picture. Is it possible? And then he talks again about domiciling junior school in senior secondary schools, those high schools.
The workload for a teacher in a school should be not more than 28 lessons.
Per teacher per week?
Per teacher per week.
Okay.
It should not be more than that. That is what will bring quality and the work. But even at that level, it is very, very, very heavy, because the teacher walk from one class to another every day, and without rest. The rest is maybe during lunch hour and so on. But I want to pick on one issue which Mohammed is trying to raise.
Yes.
That the grade 7 syllabus is very simple. Any teacher can teach. I think these are the things which made the decision easy to domicile this in primary school. But let me say this. The curriculum, the science which is being taught in integrated science taught in grade 7 has invited so many things which have come from high school. It is just like the former, the curriculum we are shedding off the 844. When the 844 was introduced, take note that we used to have, in high school there were 6 classes. All those topics which were in Form 5 and Form 6, they were spread up to Form 1.
Yeah.
And that is what made the 844 that we have, having just the right competencies, and in fact to a large extent they were even better, when those who are good are even better than the previous system. So these are the things, but it is pedestrian to talk about simplicity of a curriculum.
Yeah.
Because people think that this is a political position we are taking as unions. It is not. We are talking about this as professionals and as practicing teachers. With me, I've taught for 21 years before I joined the union. So, and I've taught nearly at all levels except the university. So we cannot be debating about this as if we don't know what we're doing. Yes.
There's Patrick Kiruri. Perhaps this could be a little bit out of our topic, but maybe make me understand about P1 interns. What is P1 interns? Because they say even them one at a second. What is P1 interns?
There are people who are trained as P1 teachers who are also employed as interns.
Okay.
Yeah, so they are also having the same fear. Their terms have not been renewed.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if we have more phone calls. I'm trying to sieve through some of these comments because generally they're about the employment terms. They're about people who don't listen. They're about the government hoodwinking them and taking them on a ride. And there's this general consensus among the teachers that they may be punished. They are being punished by their employer. My question is, has the Teachers Service Commission addressed this ahead of January with the unions? I know you said the president, you can't ask the president to call you, but has the Teachers Service Commission addressed this with the unions?
This formally we have not addressed this with the Teacher Service Commission. We have not received any correspondence from the Teacher Service Commission on what way forward they are doing. But informally, they are telling us that we intend to extend this contract, which in my view is not a wrong concept, because there is their need to maintain our schools. The best practice would have been to confirm these teachers. But we are also seeing certain indicators which show that if you engage 56 or 42,000 teachers on permanent and pensionable, sometimes they may go without salaries for some months. Because of the state of economy.
Okay.
So something workable needs to be engaged at this particular time before the term of the contract ends. And I think that's why TSC is not addressing it. Because they say, let us pass the bridge when we reach there. Which is very precarious.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work because the schools are going to stall. So Vincent from Kisumu is joining us on phone, and Mugambi from the county of Meru. But let's begin with the county of Kisumu. Vincent, what is your comment or question to the SG?
Okay. Good evening, Ken.
Good evening, Vincent. Proceed.
Good evening also the Pet Secretary General. Thank you for the opportunity. I have 3 issues to talk about. The first issue, I want to talk about the Presidential Working Party report, the Munavu report. According to the Munavu report, it was very clear that the interns were not supposed to go for over 12 months without being confirmed. And when that report came to the president, I think when they saw that it was 12 months, by the report recommendation, they decided to keep that report away. So that report has not been talked about, has not been dealt with. So I'm also concerned about the disappearance of the Munavu report. Secondly, I want to answer there was this Mohammed from Garissa. Mohammed says that the content is very easy. I think the Secretary General talks about that. But he should also tell the public when were these books, the learning area books, arrive in school, because most of them arrived the second term. Thirdly, the motivation is a very issue that people are not talking about here. A teacher who is not able to pay his rent, not able to eat well, not able to fend for his family, and when people, I don't want to mention names, but when even the president is coming out and mentioning clearly that he has employed teachers, and he is misleading even our relatives who are depending on us. They're thinking that we are stingy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last thing.
Yes, briefly.
Let me just look at the last thing about the union. Union have let us down. That one I cannot lie, because for instance, when they are supposed to touch on the pressing issues, like for example the delay in the payment of a NEC invigilation and supervision, they are quiet on that. Then I'm just thinking that the union are letting us down.
Okay.
So the union should also come and represent us well. They let them be vibrant.
Thank you, Vincent. Let's speak to Mugambi. Mugambi, very briefly, we are running out of time. What are your comments or questions?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, first of all, let me say domiciling the junior school in primary school was ill-advised. We under 7423, and we know where the 4 and the 2 was domiciled, but that is okay. We are past that. However, the intern teachers have been intern for 11 months as per the contract. And the government not confirming them to permanent and pensionable should be aware that most of these are the ones that have been delegated with the mandate of implementing the CBC curriculum in junior school. And this is like using the cheap labor, to call it by a kinder word, trusting an entire generation in the hands of these interns for 11 months, a work which they have done diligently. So the government should reward them, not with CBS and the EGH, but at least by confirming them to permanent and pensionable. Because however how good a curriculum is, its implementation, it's very critical. And I believe the implementation of the CBC in junior school lies in the hands of these interns, so they should be at least be rewarded. Okay. And last, this problem might lead to a generational breakdown or a generational disgrace of depressed teachers and students who might maybe not receive what they should receive as citizens. That is quality education, sustainable development goal number 4, effectively.
Thank you, Mugambi. I think we have captured most of the thoughts of the teachers, Akelo. Maybe just begin if there's anything you want to respond on before I look at some of the comments online before you close the show.
Sometimes it is very easy to lay blame, just like we are laying blame on the mandate of the government in their failure to implement their promises. Mm-hmm. Vincent from Kisumu is saying that the unions are let down, even on matters of NEC which has failed to pay them in time. And we don't have any direct relationship with NEC, because the NEC is not an employer of teachers. It is a contract which is outside our engagement. But we have really tried, and even our noise has made even them to get the improvement of the coordination fee from 150 to 250. These are noise which the unions have made. Yeah. But if you want us to do better, they must also listen that the unions have strategies. In 2013, we told them to stay at home, even for a day, so that we negotiate with the NEC. But some of them arrived even 2 days earlier in the examination centers. So they made us fail in our strategy. So we only use the tools that we know to work better. But now, how can I go to organize a sit-in in an examination marking center when I myself am not an examiner? So those are the weaknesses, which of course, yes, we own up, but we have tried our best. And I hope on this matter of junior secondary, we put our feet down, and the government knows our position. Currently, we have written to the president. He knows that this is the position of KUPPET. Okay. And we have not deviated, because we know very well that it was not a well thought of idea, first to domicile it in primary school, and failure to employ sufficient number of teachers. Okay. Another thing which we have not discussed, because the infrastructure is something which has let us down. When the JSS was being domiciled in primary school, the government said they will build over 23,000 laboratories. None has been constructed in any school. Really? None. No primary school has received any money to construct a laboratory. So this is a real travesty of justice to this category of learners. And it will be very, very important for them to know this. In fact, there are school classrooms lying idle in high schools, which were built to accommodate JSS students. Remember, the late cabinet secretary built about 11,000 schools. It was an overstatement when the Presidential Working Party said that when they walked around, those schools already failed. It was not true. The overriding principle here was that these children were young and they could not go to boarding schools. Yet in this country, only 27% of our schools are boarding. The rest are day schools. So the children could have gone. Another important fact is that in every ward currently, where there used just to be one secondary school, currently you find that there are maybe about 18 secondary schools in one ward. The junior secondary school could have been placed in the nearby.
Is it too late? Is it too late to
It is
revise
not
that?
too late.
It's not too late.
It is not too late.
A question here from Washika Bena says, please ask Akelo the fate of those teachers who joined the program towards the end of the year. Will they go for a year before their contracts expire? Are they looking into, will they be lucky to be absorbed alongside those who joined in February? What happens to them? Just in case you decide, the government decides to absorb. Is this under your ambit? Probably you can answer.
I don't think those who are the reason for which even those who are in contract were not considered for employment when the employment were announced. They were already having a contract for 1 year. But the promise which was there was that after 1 year, what we also knew as unions, this will be transformed into permanent and pensionable jobs. But now we were duped. So this duping is what other people think, that the unions are so weak. So do they want us to be on the streets? This is what we do best. If they want us to be on the streets, then for the better part of the year, next year, there will be no learning. And you people will be calling here and telling us that we are inconsiderate. But on this matter of junior secondary, I think something must be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll summarize the 3 points from quite a number of text messages, WhatsApp messages I've received, and also on online I have received, and the callers. I'll summarize this as 3 problems. In fact, I wonder infrastructure is not featuring completely in most of these, or just a few, probably less than 1% is mentioning infrastructure. I think because they're dealing with what is important to them first. So I'll summarize them as such, then you can conclude. Payment, the 17,000 shillings they are receiving, although someone tells me that those who are employed on permanent receive actually 9,000, those are on internship receive 18,000 or 17,000. I don't know if there's that variation. If you know, you will tell me. So the first one is payment of 17,000. The second one is permanent and pensionable, and this ties in with the letters being dished and the interviews that were organized and they were not called for the interviews, and the number of years people have spent outside and the people who just graduated getting this, and lastly, being domiciled in primary school as opposed to high school. So those are 4 areas that perhaps you can touch on as we conclude.
Thank you so much, Ken. The payment of 17,000 as the take home in terms of salary is very inconsiderate. This is the minimum wage that the president even announced in 2021, that no employer should earn less than 18,000 shillings. But now you are considering a graduate for this kind of payment, where some maids in certain households are not being paid this money. I think this is where, as a country, we need to rethink. This money is not enough to justify somebody to toil to teach 60 lessons, as they have said.
Yeah.
Secondly, the employment on permanent and pensionable terms should not be negotiated. And I'm calling upon Parliament to appropriate funds for the employment on permanent and pensionable terms on these JSS teachers.
Even if not all of them, they can begin with
there should be a program to employ them. And then the ill thought of being domiciled in primary school, because we have seen very little happening in our primary schools. Let the government take a bold step, because we will be having ghost classrooms in high school next year, because the next year there will be no Form 4 in the following year, 2025. So we will have ghost classrooms.
Yeah.
So the earlier the better, and then we will have so many teachers without jobs also in high schools. So the failure of Teacher Service Commission, the failure of the Ministry of Education to rationalize staffing to conform with the domiciling of these learners in primary school compounded the problem. And then the failure of Teacher Service Commission also to employ accordingly on using the ratio, which would at least even address some of the key areas.
Yeah.
Not posting all humanity teachers in one school and also all science teachers in one school, and not having a proper mix. Yes.
Okay. Two things. January, court or streets? A lot of teachers were saying, is the union being pushed by the government to go to court for them to act, or are they going to call for mass action?
You know, on issues of going to court on this matter, I think it is now too late for the union.
Okay.
With us, we will do what is best for us. And I cannot divulge the strategy which is in my chest now.
Okay.
Just wait and you see how we will react early next year when the situation is compounded.
Final word in 30 seconds. Do you think junior secondary school teachers have been taken for granted?
Junior secondary school teachers have not been treated well. And therefore, there must be a deliberate move to treat this cohort of teachers well, because they are handling a very critical stage of transition.
Okay.
Yes.
Akelo Misori, Kupet Secretary General, thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing your perspective. A lot of questions that have come through, but I've summarized them. I think most of your concerns were on the pay, the permanent and pensionable, what the government is saying about it, and of course the fact that you're domiciled in primary schools and not secondary school. I think most of the issues have been addressed. The leaders have had letter written to the president. TSE has been told what to do, and Akelo Misori and his team is also ready. Thank you for watching. We'll also be watching right here at KTN News. My name is Ken Mijungu. On behalf of the whole team, have a good night. God bless, and I wish you teachers the best. My parents were teachers, you know that.
I know.
Have a good night.